Hi friends, welcome to i-Tutor NCERT series. Today we are going to discuss Class 12 Geography NCERT Chapter 1 Population, Distribution, Density, Growth and Composition. The people are very important component of a country, and India is the second most popular country after China in the world with its total population of 1210 million, that is in 2011. But now or today India is the most populous country, okay, because now first one is the India, then second one is China, okay, second one is China. India's population is larger than the total population of North America, South America and Australia put together. More often, it is argued that such a large population invisibly puts pressure on its limited resources and is also responsible for many socio-economic problems in the country. So in this chapter, we will discuss the patterns of distribution, density, growth and composition of India's population. Okay, so first one is the distribution of population. India has a highly uneven pattern of population distribution. The percentage shares of population of the states and union territories in the country show that Uttar Pradesh has the highest population, followed by Maharashtra, Bihar and West Bengal, UP, Bihar and West Bengal, then Andhra Pradesh, along with Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka and Gujarat. Together account for about 76% of the total population of the country. Okay, now, so first one, the Uttar Pradesh has the highest population, and then Maharashtra, Bihar and West Bengal. Now UP, Maharashtra, Bihar, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh along with Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka and Gujarat, they together account for about 76% of the total population of the country. On the other hand, share of population is very small in states like Jammu and Kashmir, that is 1.04%, then Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, in spite of all these states having fairly large geographical area. Okay, so we know that these areas have a large geographical area, but still the population was very low. Why? Because they are mainly they are bordered states. Okay, so they have many problems, so people choose other places for living, better living. Such an uneven spatial distribution of population in India suggests a close relationship between population and physical, socio-economic and historical factors. As far as the physical factors are concerned, it is clear that climate along with terrain and availability of water largely determines the pattern of the population distribution. Consequently, we observe that the North Indian plains, then deltas and coastal plains have higher proportion of population than the interior districts of the southern and central Indian states, Himalayas, some of the northeastern and western states, etc. Now, however, development of irrigation, that is Rajasthan, availability of mineral and energy resources, that is in Jharkhand, and development of transport network have resulted in moderate to high concentration of population in areas which were previously very thinly populated. Now, among the socio-economic and historical factors of distribution of population, important ones are evolution of settled agriculture and agriculture development, then pattern of human settlement, development of transport network, industrialization and urbanization. Okay, so first one, the evolution of settled agriculture, then agriculture development, okay, then patterns of human settlement, that is development of transport network, industrialization and urbanization. Okay, now it is observed that the regions falling in the river plains and coastal areas of India have remained the regions of larger population concentration, even though the uses of natural resources like land and water in these regions have shown the sign of degradation. The concentration of population remains high because of an early history of human settlement and development of transport network. On the other hand, the urban regions of Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Bangalore, Pune, Ahmedabad, Chennai and Jaipur have high concentration of population due to the industrial development and urbanization, drawing a large number of rural urban migrants. Now, density of population. Density of population is expressed as number of persons per unit area. So what is called density of population? It is the number of persons per unit area. It helps in getting a better understanding of the spatial distribution of population in relation to land. The density of population in India in 2011 is 382 persons per square kilometer. There has been a steady increase of more than 200 persons per square kilometer over the last 50 years, as the density of population increased from 117 persons per square kilometer in 1951 to 382 persons per square kilometer in 2011. Okay, so there is a high difference, 117 to 382. Now, idea of spatial variation of population densities in the country, which ranges from as low as 17 persons per square kilometer in Arunachal Pradesh to 11,297 persons in the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Among the northern Indian states, Bihar, West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh have higher densities, while Kerala and Tamil Nadu have a higher density among the peninsular Indian states. States like Assam, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, Jharkhand, Odisha have moderate densities. The hill states of the Himalayan regions and the northeastern states of India, excluding Assam, have relatively low densities, while the Union territories, excluding Andaman and Nicobar Islands, have very high densities of population. The density of population, as discussed in the earlier paragraph, is a crude message of human and land relationship. To get a better insight into the human-land ratio in terms of pressure of population on total cultivable land, the psychological and agriculture densities should be found out, which are significant for a country like India having a large agriculture population. Okay, now next one is growth and population. Growth of population. Growth of population is the change in a number of people living in a particular area between 2 points of time. Okay, so what is called the growth of population? Is the change in number of people living in a particular area between 2 points of time. Its rate is expressed in percentage. Population growth has two components, namely natural and induced. While the natural growth is analyzed by assessing the crude birth rates and death rates, the induced components are explained by the volume of inward and outward movement of people in any given area. Okay, so there are two factors or two components, namely natural and induced. Okay, which while first one, the natural growth is analyzed by accessing the crude birth rates and death rates, and the induced is accessed by the volume of inward and outward movement of people. Now, however, in the present chapter, we'll only discuss the natural growth of Indian population. The decadal and annual growth rates of population in India are both very high and steadily increasing over time. The annual growth rate of India's population is 1.64%, that's in 2011. Now, the growth rate of population in India over the last 1 century has been caused by annual birth rates and death rates, and the rate of migration, and thereby shows different trends. There are 4 distinct phases of growth identified by this period. First one, phase 1, the period from 1901 to 1921 is referred to as a period of stagnant or stationary phase of growth of Indian population. Since in this period, growth rate was very low, even recording a negative growth rate during 1911 to 1921. Both the birth rates and death rates were high, keeping the rate of increases low. Poor health and medical services, literacy of people, and a large and inefficient distribution system of food and other basic necessities were largely responsible for a high birth and death rates in this period. Now, second phase. The decades of 1921 to 1951 are referred to as the period of steady population growth. An overall improvement in the health and the sanitation throughout the country brought down the mortality rate. Okay, so there happened that health and sanitation increases. Okay, so there is an improvement in the health sector as well as the sanitation sector. So it brought down the mortality rate of the Indian population. At the same time, better transport and communication system improved distribution system. The crude birth rate remained high in this period, leading to higher growth rate that previous phase. Okay, so the crude birth rate, so it remained high in this period, leading to a higher growth rate. This is impressive at the backdrop of great economic depression, that's 1920s and World War II. Now, phase 3. The decades of 1951 then 1981 are referred to as the period of population explosion in India. Okay, so this period is the population explosion in India, which was caused by a rapid fall in the mortality rate but a high fertility rate of population. Okay, so there is a rapid fall in the mortality rate but a high fertility rate. The average annual growth rate was as high as 2.2%. Okay, so the average growth rate that was high as 2.2%. It is in this period after the independence that developmental activities were introduced through a centralized planning process and the economy started showing up, ensuring the improvement of living condition of people at large. Consequently, there was a high natural increase and a higher growth rate. Besides increased international migration, bringing in Tibetans, Bangladeshis, Nepalis, and even people from Pakistan contributed to the high growth rate. Now, the fourth phase, that is phase 4. In the post 1981 till present, the growth rate of the country's population, though remained high, has started slowing down gradually. Okay, so though it's high, but it has started slowing down gradually. A downward trend of the crude birth rate is held responsible for such a population growth. This was in turn affected by an increase in the mean age at marriage, improved quality of life, particularly education of females in the country. Okay, so in this period give importance to the education of female. The growth rate of population is, however, still high in the country, and it has been projected by World Development Report that population of India will touch 1,350 millions by 2025. The analysis done so far shows the average growth rate, but the country also has wide variations in growth rates from one area to another, which is discussed below. So, next one is the regional variation of population and population growth. The growth rate of population during 1991 to 2001 in Indian states and union territories shows very obvious pattern. States like Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Puducherry and Goa, it shows a low rate of growth not exceeding 20% over the decade. Kerala registered the lowest growth rate, that is 9.4, not only in this group of states but also in the country as a whole. A continuous belt of states from west to east in the northwest, north and north central parts of the country has a relatively high growth rate than the southern states. It is in this belt comprising Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam, West Bengal, Bihar, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. The growth rate on the average remained 20 to 25%. Now, during 2001-2011, the growth rates of almost all states and union territories have registered a lower figure compared to the previous decade, namely 1991 to 2001. The percentage decadal growth rates of the 6 most populous states, namely Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Bihar, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh have all fallen during 2001 to 2011 compared to 1991 to 2001. The falling being the lowest for Andhra Pradesh and highest for Maharashtra. Tamil Nadu and Puducherry have registered some increase during 2001 to 2011 over the previous decade. Now, an important aspect of population growth in India is the growth of its adolescence. Okay, so it's an important aspect, that is the growth of its adolescence. At present, the share of adolescents, that is up to the age group of 10 to 19 years, is about 20.9%, among which male adolescents constitute 52.7%, female adolescents constitute 47.3%. The adolescent population, though regarded as the youthful population having high potential, but at the same time they are quite vulnerable if not guided and channeled properly. Okay, so these people or this adolescent people or adolescent population should be guided properly or or channelized properly, otherwise it will become vulnerable for the society. There are many challenges for the society as far as these adolescents are concerned, some of which are lower age at marriage, illiteracy, particularly female illiteracy, then school dropouts, low intake of nutrients, high rate of maternal mortality of adolescent mothers, high rate of HIV and AIDS infections, physical and mental disability or retiredness, then drug abuse and alcoholism, juvenile delinquency and committance of crime. Okay. Now, in view of this, the government of India has undertaken certain policies to impart proper education to the adolescent groups so that their talents are better channelized and properly utilized. The National Youth Policy is one example which has been designed to look into the overall development of our large youth and adolescent population. Now, the National Youth Policy NYP 2014, launched in February 2014, proposed a holistic vision for the youth of India, which is to empower the youth of the country to achieve their full potential, and through them enable India to find its rightful place in community of nations. The NYP 2014 has defined youth as a person in the age group of 15 to 29 years. Now, okay, so the National Youth Policy, it defines youth as a person in the age group of 15 to 29 years. Now, the Government of India also formulated the National Policy for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in 2015 to provide an umbrella framework to all skilling activities being carried out within the country and to align these to common standards and link skilling with demand centers. Now, it appears from the above discussion that the growth rate of population is widely variant over space and time in the country and also highlights various social problems related to the growth population. Now, however, in order to have a better insight into the growth patterns of population, it is also necessary to look into the social composition of population. So, now let's check the population composition. Population composition is a distinct field of study within population geography with a vast coverage of analysis of age and sex, place of residence, ethnic characteristics, tribes, language, religion, marital status, literacy and education, occupational characteristics, etc. In this section, the composition of Indian population with respect to their rural-urban characteristics, language, religion, and pattern of occupation will be discussed. So, the rural-urban composition. Composition of population by the respective places of residence is an important indicator of social and economic characteristics. This becomes even more significant for a country where about 68.8% of its total population lives in village. India has 6,40,867 villages according to the census of 2011, out of which 5,97,608, that is 93.2%, are inhabitable villages. However, the distribution of rural population is not uniform throughout the country. You might have noted that the states like Himachal Pradesh, then Bihar, have a very high percentage of rural population, but the states of Goa and Mizoram have only little over half of their total population residing in villages. Now, the Union Territories, on the other hand, have a smaller proportion of rural population, except Dadra and Nagar Haveli, it's 53.38%. Okay, they have 53.38%. The size of villages also varies considerably. It is less than 200% in a hill states of the northeastern India, then western Rajasthan and run of Kutch, and as high as 17,000 persons in the states of Kerala and in parts of Maharashtra. A thorough examination of a thorough examination of the pattern of distribution of rural population of India reveals that both at intrastate and interstate levels, the relative degree of urbanization and the extent of rural-urban migration regulate the concentration of rural population. Contrary to rural population, the proportion of urban population, that is 31.16% in India, is quite low, but it is showing a much faster rate of growth over the decades. The growth rate of urban population has accelerated due to enhanced economic development and improvement in health and hygienic conditions. The distribution of urban population too, as in the case of total population, has a wide variation throughout the country. It is, however, noticed that in almost all the states and the union territories, there has been a considerable increase of urban population. This indicates both development of urban areas in terms of socio-economic conditions and an increased rate of rural-urban migration. The rural-urban migration is conspicuous in case of urban areas along with the main roads linked the railroads in the North Indian plains, the industrial areas across Kolkata, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Mysuru, Madurai, Coimbatore, then Ahmedabad, Surat, Delhi, Kanpur, and Ludhiana, Jalandhar. Okay. Now, in the agriculture stagnant parts of the middle and lower Ganga plains, Telangana, non-irrigated western Rajasthan, remote hilly tribal areas of the northeast, along the flood-prone areas of peninsular India and along eastern part of Madhya Pradesh, the degree of urbanization has remained low. Okay, so in these places also, the urbanization has very low. Now, linguistic composition. India is land of linguistic diversity. According to Grierson Linguistic Survey of India, 1903-1928, there were 179 languages, as many as 544 dialects in the country. In the context of modern India, there are about 22 scheduled languages and a number of non-scheduled languages. Among the scheduled languages, the speakers of Hindi have the highest percentage. Smallest language groups are Sanskrit, Bodo, Manipuri speakers, that is in 2011. However, it is noticed that the linguistic regions in the country do not have a sharp and distinct boundary. Rather, they gradually merge and overlap in their respective frontier zones. Next one is linguistic classification. The speakers of major Indian languages belong to 4 language families, which have their subfamilies and branches or groups. Now, religious composition. Religion is one of the most dominant forces affecting the cultural and political life of the majority of Indians. Since religion virtually permeates into almost all the aspects of the people, family and community lives, it is important to study the religious composition in details. Okay, so look at this. This is family, then subfamily, branch or group, then speech areas. Okay, mainly Austric, Dravidian, Sino-Tibetan and Indo-European. There are 4 families, and in the subfamily as Austroasiatic, then Austronesian, then here Tibetan Myanmari, Stamist Chinese, then Indo-Aryan. Now, the spatial distribution of religious communities in the country shows that there are certain states and districts having large numerical strength of one religion, while the same may be very negligible represented in other states. Hindus are distributed as a major group in many states, ranging from 70 to 90% and above. Except the districts of states along Indo-Bangladesh border, Indo-Pak border, Jammu and Kashmir, hill states of northeast and in scattered areas of Deccan Plateau and Ganga Plain. Muslims, the largest religious minority, are concentrated in the Jammu and Kashmir, certain districts of West Bengal and Kerala, then many districts of UP in and around Delhi and in Lakshadweep. They form majority in Kashmir Valley and Lakshadweep. Okay, so the Muslims form majority in the Kashmir Valley and Lakshadweep. Now, The Christian population is distributed mostly in rural areas of the country. The main concentration is observed along the western coast around Goa, Kerala, and also in the hill states of Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Chota Nagpur area, and the hills of Manipur. Sikhs are mostly concentrated in relatively small areas of the country, particularly in the states of Punjab, Haryana, and Delhi. Jains and Buddhists, the smallest religious groups in India, have their concentration only in selected areas of the countries. Okay, so the Jains and Buddhists, they have a smallest religious group. They have only they are mainly in some of the concentrated areas. Jains have major concentration in the urban areas of Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra, while the Buddhists are concentrated mostly in Maharashtra. Okay, so the Jains are mainly found in the Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra, but while the Buddhists, they are mainly concentrated in Maharashtra. The other areas of Buddhist majority are Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Ladakh in Jammu and Kashmir, then Tripura, and Lahul and Spiti in Himachal Pradesh. The other religions of India include Zoroastrians, tribals, and other indigenous faiths and beliefs. These groups are concentrated in small pockets scattered throughout the country. Now, composition of working population. The population of India, according to their economic status, is divided into three groups, namely main workers, marginal workers, and non-workers. It is observed that in India, the proportions of workers, both main and marginal, is only 39.8%, that is in 2011, leaving a vast majority of about 60% as non-workers. This indicates an economic status in which there is a large proportion of dependent population, further indicating possible existence of a large number of unemployed or underemployed people. The proportion of working population of the states and union territories shows a variation from about 29.1% in Lakshadweep to 51.9% in Himachal Pradesh. The states with larger percentage of workers are Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and Meghalaya. Among the union territories, Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu have a higher participation rate. It is understood that in the context of a country like India, the work participation rates tends to be higher in the areas of lower levels of economic development, since a number of manual workers are needed to perform the subsistence or near subsistence economic activities. The occupational composition of India's population means engagement of an individual in farming, manufacturing, trade, services, or any kind of professional activities. Okay, so what is the occupational composition means? It actually means engagement of an individual in farming, manufacturing, trade, services, or any kind of professional activities. And it shows a large population of primary sector workers compared to secondary and tertiary sectors. About 54.6% of total working population are cultivators and agricultural laborers, whereas only 3.8% of workers are engaged in household industries and 41.6% are other workers, including non-household industries, trade, commerce, construction, and repair, and other services. As far as the occupation of countries' male and female population is concerned, male workers outnumber female workers in all the three sectors. It's in primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. Now, promoting gender sensitivity through Beti Bachao Beti Padhao social campaign. The division of the society into male, female, and transgender is believed to be the natural and biological. But in reality, there are social constructs and roles assigned to individuals which are reinforced by social institutions. Consequently, these biological differences become the basis of social differentiations, discrimination, and exclusion. The exclusion of over half of the population becomes a serious handicap to any developing and civilized society. It's a global challenge which has been acknowledged by the UNDP when it mentioned that if development is not engendered, it is endangered. Okay, so if development is not engendered, it is endangered. Okay, now discrimination in general and gender discrimination in particular is a crime against humanity. All efforts need to be made to address the denial of opportunities of education, employment, political representations, low wages for similar types of work, disregard of their entitlement to live a dignified life, etc. A society which fails to acknowledge and take effective measures to remove such discriminations cannot be treated as a civilized one. The government of India has duly acknowledged the adverse impact of these discriminations and launched a nationwide campaign called Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. The number of female workers is relatively high in primary sector, though in recent years there has been some improvement in work participation of women in secondary and tertiary sectors. It is important to note that the proportion of workers in agriculture sector in India has showed a decline over the last few decades. That is 58.2% in 2001 to 54.6% in 2011, almost a 4% decreases. Consequently, the participation rate in secondary and tertiary sector has registered an increase. Okay, so there is an increase in the secondary and tertiary sector. This indicates a shift of dependence of workers from farm-based occupations to non-farm-based ones, indicating a sectoral shift in the economy of the country. The spatial variation of work participation rate in different sectors of the country is very wide. For instance, the states like Himachal Pradesh and Nagaland have very large shares of cultivators. On the other hand, states like Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Jharkhand, West Bengal and Madhya Pradesh have a higher proportion of agricultural labours. The highly urbanized areas like Delhi, Chandigarh and Puducherry have a very large proportion of workers being engaged in other services. This indicates not only availability of limited farming land, but also large-scale urbanization and industrialization requiring more workers in non-farm sector. Okay, so that's about the chapter. If you have any doubts, you can comment below. For more videos, do like, share, subscribe.